over time, Nashville has become a more attractive destination, I think, for all folks. So we've seen a lot of change in the talent landscape. I think the one thing that's been sort of consistent for me over this time has been NSS. And I know NSS has gone through a lot of changes as well. But, every organization I've worked at, we've always sourced a lot of talent from NSS.
When I was hiring before we allowed a lot more remote workers, I was looking for people that kind of had ties to the area, which is kind of a weird thing, I think. But, I was more interested in people who had demonstrated that they were interested in staying in Nashville. I was not really looking for people who were just thinking about this as a step in their career, right? Because I was building a team. It was just me in 2016, and it's grown since then, but we've really grown, and we've hired based on potential.
In recent years, Nashville's tech community has experienced unbelievable growth. From new residents finding their place in our thriving tech community to entire companies moving to town. There is more demand for local tech talent than ever. In this episode of 10 Years, 2,000 Journeys, we're speaking with Jason King, Senior Director of Data Science at XSOLIS, and Thomas Schlegel, Acting CTO at Built Technologies. You're going to hear both of their strategies to build and retain their team at the locally grown companies they work for, even as more companies consider making Nashville their next home and drive up talent demand even more.
My name is Thomas Schlegel. I'm the Chief Technology Officer for Built Technologies. Been in Nashville for about a decade.
My name is Jason King, and I'm the Senior Director of Data Science at XSOLIS, and I've been in Middle Tennessee about 15 years.
Thomas, Jason, thank you so much. Today's conversation is all about homegrown tech companies and the tech talent that we have here and attracting more tech talent. And, a lot has changed these past 10 years. So thinking about how our companies continue to grow and attract the best people around, I'm really looking forward to this. So thank you.
Sure. Yeah, pleasure to be here.
Yeah, it's great to be here.
Thomas, let's start with you. Built Technologies. You've been the CTO now since 2019.
No, I've only been the CTO for about 6 months.
This the interim CTO.
Yeah,
so you joined the company in 2019. You moved to Nashville in 2013.
Yep, that's right.
So you've seen some things here. Tell me, in just your own words, Built Technologies, where it's at today, because they are making really big moves.
Yeah, no, it's been great, and I think it's part of what kind of keeps me interested in the company and the role is we've been expanding. So we started as kind of a singularly focused product company. You sort of always want to prove your value before you internally we use the mantra, get one in a row, kind of earn the right to do more. And so we have done that, and so now we're starting to walk and chew gum. And it's been challenging, but it's the transition from a product company to more of a platform company. And we're really focused on trying to fix all of the supply chain issues in construction real estate as well as construction finance.
Helping fix supply chain issues right now. That's a big challenge in what we've seen. I'm sure that has been, your world's been quite upside down.
Yeah, and I think even supply chain might not even be the best way to describe it. There are all these processes that exist that today are email, spreadsheet, phone call, and it's sort of hidden in plain sight. I think you can't, especially in Nashville, you can't really drive more than a mile down the road without seeing some form of construction. And I don't know if this has ever run through your head, but you'll notice like at one point in time, it's just a piece of land. And then all of a sudden there's a structure there, but then it seems to, for weeks, months at a time, you're like, wait a second, they stood all of that up, but it's kind of stalled. And so that is really at the heart of the problem.
Something can hold up the whole build.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, and a lot of it is just these manual processes. The banks are trying to reduce risk. The construction companies are trying to really manage their cash flow. And so there's sort of this misbalance of priorities in terms of, which project do I go to? The one that has been sitting for a while or the one that's going to pay me next? And, we work with all the stakeholders to try to address some of these issues and try to streamline.
I love it. It started off with just a few people. Now you're up to around 500
Yeah, that's right. I don't know the total origin story, but something to the extent of, half a dozen folks in a closet. And we've stayed in the Grassmere area, but we've bounced around from smaller office to incrementally larger office. And now we have a pretty dang big office. And so, the growth has been incredible. COVID, for better or worse, did kind of help us grow as the need for a digital process. And a lot of this went up as folks became more and more remote. And so we, unlike a lot of businesses, we actually experienced a ton of growth during COVID.
A lot of problems need fixing. Shifting over to you, Jason, tell me a little about your role, XSOLIS. I'm saying that right.
XSOLIS. Yes,
XSOLIS.
that's correct.
It's a really cool name, and I want to hear a little more about your role. 6 years, Senior Director of Data Science.
Yeah, so I wasn't always the senior director. Back when I was a department of one, I was just the data science.
You were everything.
Yeah, I was the data scientist / data science department, I guess, right? I
can imagine you having you're drinking coffee right now, almost like a coffee mug, like you're looking at the data science department.
Yep, that's right. Yeah. So, and we were also very small, a very tightly knit team. When I started in 2016, I think I was employee number 16, so not quite as small, when I had started. XSOLIS actually started up in 2013 and very quickly pivoted away from, we used to do rack audits, but that program shifted with CMS and we pivoted to utilization review. So mostly we work with, I would say we have a single product, right? And we've been expanding to new markets. That's challenging, right? And we've got to grow and revisit some of the technical debt that we had. But I think that's just part of growth, right? So the team has definitely grown over the years. I've got 10 data scientists now, which is huge.
That's incredible. The name XSOLIS, could you describe just what that comes from to help me understand the meaning?
Yeah. So I wasn't around for its inception, but I have been told that it was essentially silos X backwards, and with the idea being that we're hoping to eliminate data silos within healthcare.
More big problems that need solving.
Yep, absolutely.
And how big is XSOLIS today?
We're holding right at about 250 employees. So.
Well, both of your perspectives today, and I can't wait to kind of get out of the way, as I'm really eager to hear both of your tips and strategies of what's been working to grow strong teams, healthy teams, teams that people want to be part of as we continue to attract all of this talent. So just take a snapshot backwards these last 10 years. Is there one or two of the biggest changes that you've seen, especially as it relates to our homegrown talent workforce?
Yeah, I can kind of jump in. I think if you want to talk about the landscape a little bit, I think there were maybe less reasons to move to Nashville for tech in the past. I mean, HCA has sort of been the big enterprisey and in the healthcare space. So if you were going to move here for a tech job, it was probably in healthcare, and HCA is sort of leading the charge. Over time, Nashville has become a more attractive destination, I think, for all folks. And a big part of that, with how the city has grown, has been attracting other businesses. And so, with AWS entering the scene, Oracle, Alliance Bernstein, that just brings talent. And then, the city itself has to be attractive enough, especially in this remote forward world. So we've seen just a lot of change in the talent landscape. I think the one thing that's been sort of consistent for me over this time has been NSS, and I know NSS has gone through a lot of changes as well. But every organization I've worked at, we've always sourced a lot of talent from NSS, and I think the universities that are in Tennessee haven't been so tech focused. We hire the occasional grad from an MTSU where they do go through more of a traditional kind of 4-year ABET program. But other than that, in Nashville, most of our talent does come from remote, and they end up being transplants. And so a big part of that has been Nashville being just an attractive destination regardless of tech jobs. And we happen to be an attractive tech job here, and now our brand has gotten big enough where we can help draw people to the city. And so, I think it's much more about the growth of Nashville And now all these companies are starting to make their homes here, and that makes it a good balance between a great city for just living your life. Economically, I know the prices and things it's more expensive than it used to be, for sure, but still relatively affordable if you're going to compare to a Bay Area or a New York or a Chicago. And so it's been the right balance of like good opportunities, and you can have a really sustainable, like nice quality of life in a town like Nashville.
What do you think, Jason?
Well, I definitely would mirror a lot of what Thomas has said. It is a little bit of a different domain for me because we're in data science. So the universities are pretty attractive here as far as for my candidate pool. I will say NSS has been a major component of that, and I think of that as an additional layer of like quality and training for some of these PhDs coming out of Vanderbilt, Belmont, Lipscomb, all those kind of, our local institutions. So that being said, healthcare is huge. Sometimes things are just popular because they're popular, right? Healthcare operations has always been massive here in Nashville. And from a data perspective, I think that is a very attractive opportunity for data scientists. Because, personally, the data that I have access to is not really something that I would have access to even at FANG, right? Just the level of detail into patient encounters and all of that. And it is very attractive to somebody who wants to get into that realm or really dig into the detail. So.
Wow. Anything else you want to add on just why you think Nashville is a really strong place to start and grow a tech business? In addition to what you both just said, is there anything else we've not mentioned?
I'll just go back to, I think, from my perspective, and I'm certainly no expert, but I think there is this macro level transition that's happening in the field. I think people are maybe awakening a little bit and trying to think about their life more holistically, and being able to find a rewarding and fulfilling job where you can do meaningful work and build meaningful relationships, but still live your life, have a city where you can go out with friends and there's sort of a never-ending mix of things to do if you're into the music scene, the nightlife scene. And then uniquely, Nashville also has access to nature. And so being kind of this in-between, not quite a big city, but still a big city, there aren't too many cities where you can have a yard and trees. And so Nashville's got that balance. And to me, I think that's what it is. It's just you can no longer think about things such that like, I want to go to a place strictly for my career. Now it's, hey, how can I have a more fulfilling, well-rounded life? And your career is certainly a big part of that. You spend a lot of time at work. And so I think Nashville's just got that right mix right now. And so, I would lean more that way than tech really being the main driver. We're more the beneficiary, I would say.
Yeah, it's pretty all-encompassing. Right. I would say somebody who has been here before, I'd say a big boom. It's funny because my wife would probably kill me for saying
okay.
it, but she had her bachelorette party on Broadway in 2010. It was a very different landscape, no pedal taverns. I think they were the only bachelorette party that night, so everyone was buying them drinks and all of that. But it's a different scene, right? And it is pretty wild to think that, okay, I live in a single family home and I can see the skyline. Right. There's not many cities that you can get that sort of, feeling or that setup. Right.
What you both are describing, this picture of having a home and being able to see the skyline and have, grass and trees and a life outside of work. Now, other companies they're learning this too. They're moving to Nashville. So over the years, how have you both in your own individual roles, how have you been able to keep up with this talent demand? What's worked?
For us, it's been, our strategy has evolved. So I would say, I don't want to make it sound like we always got this right or we always knew what was best. I think where we've succeeded is we've been flexible and we've tried to pay attention to what's going on around us. And so we've become a lot more remote friendly. We have a lot more transplants moving into the city. And then I think, having a more well-rounded program such that our benefits are great, and, we have unmetered PTO, and we have programs to help make sure people are using that. We even have
actually using the PTO, because sometimes you hear people say, "Oh yeah, unlimited PTO," and then they never take it.
Well, I'm pretty guilty of that. I happen to love work, so for me, I think I am striking the balance. But I think we have matured and we've been thoughtful about kind of reminding people that it is a marathon, not a sprint. And we've tried to take this culture of ownership where we want every employee to be an investor in the organization. And so we put our money where our mouths are, and every employee from, an executive level down to an entry level, you get some skin in the game, and it helps you think about the longer term value. And part of that is keeping things sustainable for yourself. And so, like I said, we definitely hadn't have it perfect the whole time, but we've grown, and that's been important for us to strike that balance. And then I think where we, I think that is table stakes. Every company needs to be able to do that. And where I think we spike is we've got really interesting tech. We've put a big focus on kind of re-platforming. We understand that from a business asset perspective, like we need to be scaling into the future, but also from a talent perspective, people want to work on the latest and greatest. They want to grow their careers. You can't bring them in to work on some legacy system and expect them to stick around too long, because it's not good for them. So I think we've found a good balance there, and then we spike on just like very meaty, interesting, tangible problems. And so, the combination of all of that is how we present ourselves in the market and what we've done to try to be thoughtful about like attracting and retaining talent.
It's really encouraging. It's really helpful to hear. Not only you got to make it a priority, but you got to stick with it and continue making that time. And not only is it good for, hey, these are people, let's treat them like people and give them space and that good work-life balance, but you'll get better results with your teams. Speaking of teams, and as you continue to grow quickly and you're adding on more talent, you both shared super generous comments about Nashville Software School. When you think about education partners like NSS, how are you looking to them to help you grow these teams? What comes to mind with that?
Yeah, so I can overlay. Our tech talent strategy has changed slightly. I think as we were a younger organization, we hired from NSS a lot. We still hire from NSS, to be clear. I think we have learned to be more intentional about that. A lot of the problems we're solving and a lot of the things in the business, there's ambiguity. And junior talent coming out of a university or a boot camp, oftentimes like that, you don't want to just throw them in the deep end and see if they can swim. And then that's a little bit of what we used to do. I think we've matured enough where now we're trying to be more, I guess, like tactical around it. Like, hey, let's find teams that have indexed on more senior talent and sort of get them some junior talent to help grow. And we believe that, like for everyone, you need a mentor, you need a peer, and you need somebody to be teaching. And teaching actually helps you kind of reinforce your knowledge of what you have. And so we found that, being Music City, a lot of the folks that come through NSS come from a background in music. And for whatever reason, those skills do translate pretty well to tech. And I think secondarily, to kind of go out on a limb like that and invest in yourself and recognize, that your career can be more valuable and you want to be intentional about making a change in your life. We found that individuals coming through NSS that are sort of second career individuals have been sort of like diamonds in the rough for us. And so I think there's sort of two fronts to think about it, or how we think about it these days, which is one, let's make sure when we're hiring this talent that we've got the right support systems for them so that they are really set up for success. And then two, when somebody's internally motivated, that translates very well. And we find that, typically the folks that we hire index more on that side. So that's been a good combination for us. I think there are some challenges with that. We have to be extremely proactive and competitive with comp and sort of kind of giving incremental shots in the arm to keep people motivated and engaged, because the tech landscape is very competitive. So what we don't want to happen, we hire you out of school, we make all these investments in you, and then you sort of leave us. And, that is no one's fault. Like, built has to be a type of place where we use the term talent residence. Like we want you to be able to come here and build your career. It's not just a job. And so, we've put in a lot of continuous learning programs internally to help reinforce that. I mentioned that distribution of talent, making sure they're set up for success. And then we use our core values, we call them guiding principles, to help us index and find people who are internally motivated and sort of fit our blueprint for what we feel like is a cultural fit. And so that's where NSS has continued to be a good source. And we've been the beneficiary of strong talent coming out of NSS, maybe a different organization in Nashville. There's an individual that really comes to mind who started at Nissan, and then we were able to scoop him out of there, and he joined Built. But I mean, same thing. He's an NSS grad. He's super sharp. We're trying to find ways to continue to challenge him and make sure he can grow with us. And so tech companies in Nashville, and I think probably everywhere this is a problem, but particularly in Nashville, now that there's more competition, you got to be proactive. And you have to be thoughtful about the longevity of the role and really be intentional about that investment. So I mentioned the act like an owner and the fact that we invest in the team members, and kind of everyone in the company is an investor. That's been part of it. And then I think secondarily, just thinking about it almost like an NFL draft of sorts, where it's sort of like your first round draft pick, you're going to invest in them. You want them to eventually become a franchise quarterback. And so that's how we think about it. Still probably not perfect, but we've learned a lot of lessons the hard way. But yeah.
That's good advice. I appreciate you sharing that. What about you, Jason? What would you add?
Yeah, you had said something, Thomas, that really resonated with me, which was you're not looking to bring people on and then have them skill up and then leave. That really resonates with me because, as much as possible, I don't want to be considered like a minor league team, right? XSOLIS is not some place where it's not a stepping stone to another place. It really should offer career opportunities. And, I've been very fortunate in retaining a lot of talent. I think it has a lot more to do with the nature of the work and the scope of the data. That's the attractive part. I try to keep that in mind when I was hiring before we allowed a lot more remote workers. I was looking for people that kind of had ties to the area, which is kind of a weird thing, I think. But, I was more interested in people who had demonstrated that they were interested in staying in Nashville. I was not really looking for people who were just thinking about this as a step in their career, right? Because I was building a team. It was just me in 2016, and it's grown since then, but we've really grown, and we've hired based on potential. I still find it very difficult to hire people based off of, senior people, and I think that's just common across the field. But NSS has been a really excellent candidate pool, I'd say, right? And it offers an ability to really get to know the people in those programs. So I think you volunteer, is that correct, Thomas, with NSS? Or?
Not these days. I used to do a little bit of that. Yeah. We stood up a boot camp at a prior organization that I was with in West Virginia, kind of based off of NSS. So I was fortunate enough to have been part of that partnership, and I've seen that do good things for West Virginia. It's a totally different landscape over there, where there are not a lot of jobs. So we've kind of stood up hubs and made that more remote friendly, maybe pre-COVID, maybe a little ahead of our times. But yeah, I would say I've been less involved in NSS over the last few years, other than just interviewing a ton of candidates that come out of those programs.
Well, I think that's just a function of rising, in seniority. Yeah, need less and less time, to do extracurriculars, I'd say, and I'm guilty of it as well. I've not been as good about supporting my meetup, the Data Science National meetup, but I will get back on the ball there, right?
It's coming back. Oh, yeah.
But I still try to volunteer, and it's just a really nice opportunity. I'll teach an NLP unit or serve on like an industry panel or go to demo day, I'm sure.
Yeah, we go to demo day. We have 3 or 4 active employees that are still very involved, even to the point where they're, sort of like night instructors. And so I would say the organization is still definitely involved, just me personally less so.
Right. Yeah. And I think that those ties are super important because it gives you some insight into up and coming talent, right?
Yeah, everyone probably likes to believe that. I mean, I'm sure we definitely do. But yeah, I think overall, I've also seen the quality of talent coming out of NSS kind of go up over time as well. I think NSS has done a good job plugging into the businesses and trying to understand what's important and sort of shifting their curriculum a bit. So there's been a lot more React is a good example, and we're very heavy React. And so when we're looking for more of like a feature developer, it's literally the tech stack we use. So super helpful for them to be able to hit the ground running and things like that.
Being an active participant helps you guide the curriculum a little bit.
Exactly.
It's almost funny. Whenever I give the NLP unit, half the demos are, text classification or parsing or all that, and that's good for me, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's not why I do it, but I mean, it's great.
Well, I think that is the point. Just to be fair to everyone, it doesn't have to be a negative thing. It's like, NSS exists to help people kind of, kickstart their career, and a big part of that is producing talent that's like job ready. So, I think that is a key part of the strategy.
Yeah, absolutely.
This has been great. I love the focus you both have on growing these teams, not only investing in them, but creating an environment where they want to stay and continue to become that franchise quarterback example that you were sharing about, hey, you're in it for the long run. This is a career, right? We're not trying to be a minor league team here. So these are great examples. I really appreciate it. Anything else that you've not shared? Final thoughts before we wrap up?
I will just say, based on sort of the theme of the conversation, for companies in Nashville, like how to think about it, I will emphasize macro trends in the industry, and that like there is a little bit of a adapt or die when it comes to remote talent and also being progressive and thinking about their career long term. So just understand that if you're an organization in Nashville, you're going to have to think about how your talent strategy relates at the national level, and that will include both a mix of local and remote talent. And then, be very intentional about what that mix is. That's one where hopefully we can help other folks skip some steps. We learned that the hard way, and try and have the right mix where it is an environment where people are set up for success. I think that would be my final thought.
Yeah, and maybe building off of that, I would just say that the onboarding experience is critical for retaining people. That even that first day experience, and I highlight that because we have so many more remote workers now, and I would say that is probably the least developed program in most companies as far as that first day, first week, first month experience. So any improvement to that, any structure will really, really help, I think, in the long run with retention.
That's great. I really appreciate your time, both of you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks.
It's super insightful to hear how locally grown companies like XSOLIS and Built Technologies continue to find ways to stay competitive with Nashville's growing tech demand by sourcing talent locally and attracting talent to Nashville. If you're looking to grow and develop your own tech team or tech pipeline and would like to connect with Nashville Software School, visit their website at nashvillesoftwareschool.com. And thank you so much for listening. We've been having the best time with this series, and I couldn't be happier to have you alongside with us. My name's Clark Buckner, and this is 10 Years, 2,000 Journeys, presented by Nashville Software School.